Good afternoon. My name is Gareth Davis, and I'm the chair of the British Chamber of Commerce Digital Technology Group. I'm here with my colleagues, Max.
Hi everyone, I'm Max, CTO at Lexicon. Very happy to be here.
Hi, I'm Jamie. I'm the head of Amazon's Global Selling Division for Thailand.
Hi, I'm David. I'm Tech and Transformation Director at PCS Thailand.
And it's his birthday today.
Happy birthday!
Thank you very much, everyone.
Today, we're going to talk about some of the reasons why the group exists, talk about some technology changes over the past year, and how we've helped the British Chamber and its members through various events and technology and news. So my first question to the group is, what is the main objective of the Digital Technology Group?
Good question. I guess it's just, technology moves so fast. There is always new trends, something evolving, and it's just about keeping the members involved in those changes.
Yeah, and I think it's also really important that we represent a more diverse group. So none of us are from the same industry, even though some of us have worked together. We can help people stay abreast of what's in their industry, as well as in other industries that may move at a faster or slower pace than them.
Yeah, I'd agree with that, Jamie. I think it's about helping the membership out, but it's also about understanding that the British Chamber membership is broad and trying to make sure that our group represents the same broad perspectives of the membership.
And so, sort of, other than the events we've run, how have we been assisting the Chamber and its members?
Oh, I'll jump in. So I think one of the things that's been really interesting for me as a new member to the Chamber this year is that you get asked a lot of questions at all of the different events. So whether it's an event being put together by the Technology Committee or I'm just there as an attendee, because people know that I'm with the Technology Committee, they often ask questions about the digital transformation for their organization or what are some of the things that we're seeing. And that one-to-one guidance is something that you can only get at a Chamber type level where you have access to so many different groups.
I think similar to Jamie, but in a slightly different way, I get contacted at the events specifically by tech companies who are trying to be introduced to or sell tech into British Chamber members. So they're members themselves, they want to be introduced to other members, and I suppose they see us as a useful vetting point when they're exploring options or exploring potential leads and prospects.
Yes. Yes, we certainly do get a lot of that. And I know a lot of people come up to me and say, well, you're part of tech, what do you do? How do you help? And I think the main thing is knowledge. I think knowledge sharing to the members and making sure that they have a point of call to reach out to us and ask for advice.
And the passion as well to do it.
Yes, yeah, of course, absolutely.
Of course, yes.
So what have been the most interesting developments in technology over the past year?
It's a really tough one, actually. There's just so much. It depends where you're looking at it from. If I look from the perspective of PCS and what we look at, and I think it's similar to a lot of our members, there's been some great developments around process efficiency. So technology is moving closer to the end user. End users are becoming more empowered to change the tech they use and to build processes themselves. So I'll take actually maybe a slightly boring example, but an example that everyone has access to. So Google or Microsoft 365. There's so much available in both of those products now, and they've both accelerated in the last couple of years to the point where they provide much, much, much more functionality to end users. And it's that citizen developer idea. Normal team members can go and develop a form or a process or automate something or build an app.
Yeah, I think it's just much more accessible overall. And I would you mentioned Microsoft 365. For us, we use Figma, which is also an online design tool, and it's just how easy it is to collaborate or on something and how accessible it is. Like the prices have went down a lot. Not a great example because it has been bought by Adobe. Yeah. Arguably, but nevertheless, it's ever cheaper, and there is thousands of solutions for the same problem, so everyone can really pick what works for them.
Yeah, I think that's very interesting. I take obviously, because I'm coming from the Amazon perspective, I take a slightly different perspective on the fact that what I've seen so much that's really skyrocketed is how people are using technology to really build trade. I think what happened a lot during COVID is businesses really realized that they needed to go direct to consumer a lot more, that they needed to be able to manage their own solutions a bit more in-house. They couldn't offshore things as much as they had before, so they're bringing a lot of those pieces in-house. And then some of the larger service providers are building on technologies that we hadn't really figured out the best use case for. So I think one of my favorite examples is the rise of blockchain in logistics. So looking at trusted documents from the manufacturing facility to the first port of departure, all the way through direct to customs clearance, the ability to use this piece of technology to actually build trust. And that's one of the things that I think we're really starting to see, right? Is people during COVID had to trust online. And so now they're turning to technology, whether it's a marketplace or a platform or a specific piece of software, with this level of trustability that we just haven't had before now. I think it'll be fascinating.
Do you think much of the technology developed during COVID has sort of been dropped, or is it being elaborated on now? Because there was, things like QR code scanning into bars and restaurants and malls, and there was, sort of the tracking of where you've been. Is that ended now, or will it carry on?
Well, I personally have never been a huge fan of tracking of personal movements. But I do think that it's very interesting, the fact that we've taken what are now our more personal devices and we've connected them not just for commerce, right? We're connecting them to our daily habits. And that's the part that I think that is likely to stay, whether it's the QR code or whether it is our scan in, scan out, or tracking in the future. It's more about what are we using our devices for that's not just transactional through the device, but the device connecting us to larger pieces. That I think is very likely to stay.
Yeah, I think Jamie's right, and I think the trust element is really important. It's not just trust, convenience is the next thing. So people are used to more convenience, and they're getting that convenience through technology. Forward on from convenience, security as well. So blockchain on logistics will give you both security and trust. But the security element, personal data, privacy, how our data is used, people are more wary of those things now. And PDPA in Thailand's obviously brought that to the fore, but it's becoming more of a conscious thought for people when they start to use tech. So the systems that continue to be useful and people don't feel are intrusive are the ones that will stay, in my view.
I think also it's forced every generation into those technologies, right? Like my parents never heard of QR code before that, and they had to use it. So yeah, it's definitely not everything will stay, but it brought an adoption.
Sure. What are some technologies the company should be taking advantage of right now? Max.
So for me, in marketing, I think AI it's been making huge progress in data processing, all kind of data processing, but especially in video, image, audio. It's there to stay, and it's getting smarter and smarter. We use it every day to clean outputs and generate content, right? So yeah, I think that's something big to stay.
See, on that note, going back to the last question, have you used DALL-E? Yeah, the image generation software.
I'm personally really into it. I used not the official DALL-E one, but other. I forgot the name exactly.
Crayon or?
Yes, Crayon, exactly. And I'm very impressed by the output, and I think it's really going to challenge. It's already challenging art, right? I think someone win an award.
Yes,
recently,
correct, yeah.
Right? Using DALL-E or another
AI-generated art won an award.
It's definitely going to challenge a lot of industries. Right now it's art, and it's going to keep going for sure.
I think any creative industry. Some of my friends work in interior design, and they're now using it for their sort of mood boards. They're saying, design a chair that's made of brown leather, and that's them generating images that they can use.
Wow.
That's terrifying.
That's a bit depressing, yeah. It's the depressing side of tech in some ways. Because art, you don't really want to replace art entirely. But there's definitely practical uses, and I think for stuff like that, it's where the practical use is that it sticks around. So your interior design friends probably found a very good practical use.
I think so. But then, sorry.
Well, it doesn't replace the creativity bit. It's just a tool that people can use to generate an output without having to know graphic design, for example. Just using a prompt, and it's like any tool. When you know how to use it, you can do easier. You can process things faster.
But it's the same technology that in one of the PCS sites would be able to recognize a left bag on the ground and alert security to go and check it out.
Yep, available in iPhone 16 now. Is it 14?
14 now, aren't we?
16 now. Yeah, it's available in 16.
I'm Android. I'm Realtek.
So other than AI, Dave, what else should companies be using?
Well, I'd go for a specific example in Thailand, and I'd talk about robotic process automation here. And I think robotic process automation has a unique opportunity in Thailand because we're a bit further behind on general digitization of process. And there is so much manual, repetitive process, in my experience, in Thai business that we can eliminate quite quickly. And we can move people from doing very boring jobs to doing more interesting, value-adding jobs. So look for your boring, repetitive processes that provide no value to your employees or your business, and get a robot to do them.
Does it work for visa applications?
Unfortunately, Max, it can't go down to that big building and queue for 5 hours for you.
Not yet.
No, that's what visa services are for. So I would actually pivot, because a lot of times we say, oh, what technology should you use? And the question to me is more, what are you trying to accomplish before you talk about what is the tech? Because if I was to say, you know, as Jamie, what technology would I be looking for any business that I was in, it would be very, very different than if I'm talking about, you know, a very large enterprise. But I think one of the things we really miss the grasp on is when we talk about what technologies people should be using right now, it's, are you trying to do digital transformation? Are you trying to optimize a specific process? Or are you trying to upskill and reskill workers in a factory that you're not going to digitize, right? So I think there's almost always a specific piece of technology for whatever your goal is, but before you try to decide what technology it is, ask yourself, what am I trying to accomplish, and then design a technology. But that being said, everyone should be using an employee communication tool. So I don't have any specific recommendations, but what we found during COVID, I think all companies keeping in touch with their employees and actually creating relationships requires a very specific piece of technology in order to be able to do that. We got more connected technically for meetings, but did we really manage to engage and empower our employees through technology, and specifically the communication technologies? I think there are definitely some winners and some losers, but finding that way to engage and empower your employees with communication technology, especially between HR and your employees and managers and the employees, is going to be exceptionally important. It's something you should already be doing if you haven't figured it out now.
Completely agree with that. In fact, we were at an event a couple of weeks ago that the Digital Technology Group ran.
That's
you
right.
weren't
I was
able
not
to
there.
attend, Jamie, unfortunately. I know you really, really wanted to.
Yes. The one Pam was at, yeah?
Yeah, it was the one Pam was at. So we talked a lot about this topic, actually, and I completely agree, and I think that all the panel would agree, that communication suffered under COVID. Yes. Communication can also suffer over too much tech as well. So, you know, Zoom and Teams meetings are a great example of that, where you're just trudging from one meeting to another, and you don't build any relationships with people, and you lose that human contact. So if we can find comms tech, communications technology that can try and do it in a nice way, that isn't just productivity and meeting focused, but also helps people connect to their peers. I actually had a meeting with a guy yesterday, and I won't promote it on this video, who talked to us about relationship mapping in organizations. So they can take data from your existing systems and through questionnaires, and you can see the relationship map between all of your employees. And the results are fascinating, because the hierarchy of an organization is completely broken down by the social interaction within an organization. And the social interaction within an organization is actually how things get done, not
for sure in Thailand.
That's a useful one.
On that point though, David, it's quite interesting. So we have in DDX, we have, like, you know, we use Slack for chat. Yep. We use Google Meet for our video calls. We keep our project management tasks in Jira. We keep meetings of minutes either in Google Docs or in Atlassian. Then we have WhatsApp groups and we have emails. And it's quite difficult to track what to do, when and where that alert's coming in. And that's also 24/7, right? You know, okay, some of us snooze it at night time, but realistically we have people abroad, you know, working in all kinds of time zones. So how do we get around that? Because that's a big thing for businesses right now, is how to become productive again. And it's not just about productivity or communications, it's about where do I look?
It's a really good point. I don't know if I necessarily have the answer right
Right?
off the top of my head. I think we have a similar problem at PCS, right? So we have less. We have Outlook, Microsoft email, we have Teams, we have Line, and then the occasional phone call or text message, depending on who you're speaking to. But it is difficult. You'll get the same query in an Outlook email that you'll get in Teams, and then if you don't respond quickly enough to that, you get it in Line. We're actually looking at through our new HR system, kind of streamlining comms through that. So we start to interact with people, and we're connecting Line up to Teams. So when you can chat in Line, you also chat in Teams. And I think Line and Teams, and probably the Google products and other products out there, all have really easy, ready-to-use APIs where you can connect them together. So that might be one way, is start to look at integrating some of these systems so people aren't getting overwhelmed. And I think the problem is it's multiple instances of the same question or the same communication.
Yeah.
The deadly triple tap. Like, why? Why would you send me the same question?
It's good you don't read your emails.
Oh, just yours. It's true. I don't read my emails. I hate email. Sorry, I jumped in on.
No, I agree. I agree that I think every company has the same problem. At least we have much less tool, and it's also up to personal preference where people want to communicate. It's hard to always monitor everything at the same time. So.
Yeah. And then you're using Adobe Sign to sign something, and then using Google Docs to store it. So then you've got to upload it, and I think a lot of this can all be automated, which goes back to your first point, I suppose.
Absolutely, yeah.
Well, and I think the bigger question is, how did we manage this before? Because we haven't necessarily added a whole bunch of business interactions, right? We've always had contracts, we've always had signatures, we've always had the need to take meeting minutes and to have follow-ups. So why are we breaking down now? Like what has happened? And I think part of it goes back to what you were saying, is this concept that we'd be on 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Yeah. There's no way for you to keep up with all of that. And so I think there's two areas that I would say that are really the most important. One is to have the people that you can trust to ask, where is the thing? There's always one person on every team who kind of just knows. And I think previously that was your friend that sat next to you in the cubicle, but now they're just more online. But the other side I would say is having do not disturb features on all of your tech, and as a way to help people be productive. Because when you're working in time zones around the world, being able to clearly communicate, I'm not going to respond to you right now because this is outside of my working hours, allows them to not stall out for you. I think this is something that I personally really struggle with, because I have teams in Seattle and in India and China and all, my mentors in Mexico.
And you forget, right?
Yeah, you forget what time zone they're on. Exactly. Yeah. And I have a wonderful message from Alexis who says, it's 2 a.m. I'm like, so sorry.
Yeah. Microsoft just introduced a feature, actually. So whoever you're contacting, it says they are in this time zone and they're either this many hours behind or this many hours ahead.
Oh, Slack's had that for years.
Yeah, I'm sure it has. But 365 is not on the coolest list of Silicon Valley tech, so you wouldn't have bought it.
Moving on. How has
we're done. Okay, moving on.
How has the DTG group helped members, I guess new and existing, stay up to date with technological trends?
So I guess, we obviously there was some restriction, right? And we couldn't be as active as we wanted at the beginning of the year. But now things are picking up. Lots of events are happening, sorry. Next one for me will be in November.
Yeah.
Can I do a little bit of promotion? Is that okay?
Please go. Yeah.
Basically on the question of, do I need an app and what kind of solution are out there for you? So if that's your question, please join.
I've got an event that is a joint event with the British Chamber, the American Chamber, on October 18th, where we will be talking about what does your business need to go global. It'll be great. Also attend that one.
I don't have any events to promote because ours were already in the past, but I'll tell you about some of the ones we've had this year. So there was one that I think both of you guys were speaking at the beginning of the year, tech trends to look out for in 22.
Oh yeah, right at the beginning. That's when we met.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was when we met, Gareth, and never looked back. A couple of times. There was another event on hospitality, tech and hospitality, which I thought was fantastic. Mm-hmm. I didn't go, but based on the feedback, I thought it was fantastic.
It was really good.
We did a great event a couple of weeks ago about transforming HR through technology as well.
That was
so
fantastic.
They're all definitely go to Max and Jamie's events.
And we also have another member of the group, Sal. She's running an event on smart farming, which is soon.
This September, I
It's
believe.
this month
Is it?
Yeah.
or early next month.
No, I think it's the 8th of October because I'm away.
Oh, that's right, because I was going to do the 8th of October, and now I'm the 18th.
Yeah.
That's right. I would also say, one of the things, sorry to interrupt you, that I will say in ways that I believe that we do help the membership with each of these events, as we've talked about, they've all been very, very different parts of the business. And in a lot of committees, you get a bit of a singular focus on what is the thing that this committee does. So we don't just sit here and talk about what's the coolest tech, what's the latest thing that's come out. It's how can we apply this to businesses that are only in Thailand and want to go global? How do we determine what's the best use for this problem I'm trying to solve? What may be the next coming trends? Or in Sao, I mean, how do we revolutionize agriculture? One of the most important export groups here in Thailand.
I think we're also able to do that because of the diversity of the group. And everyone's in a different industry, and that was mentioned at the beginning. I think that does mean that we can have interesting topics and very interesting events. And I think we've almost done one a month since the middle of the year, right?
Yeah.
Which is pretty good going.
I think we'd really encourage people to come along as well. So don't, just because when it's advertised in the British Chamber, it's got Digital Tech Group or it's advertised as a technology event. We really work hard to try and make sure that they are relevant to non-techies and helping people who wouldn't necessarily know how to approach technology to make better use out of it. So I think that's an important point as well.
Well, yeah, I think the chamber is a business chamber. And I think whilst we are talking about technology, our focus is helping businesses move forward with technology. It's like digital transformation. It's not about the tech. The tech is just there as a means to help. The actual digital transformation is to help people do better.
Agreed.
So finish with one last question. What are the main digital technologies to look out for next year?
I think blockchain across the supply chain.
And AI, right?
And yeah. And probably it's the rise of mobile this year.
Rise of yeah.
I don't think it's 2023, but AR is definitely. There will be a leap at some point when Apple will release their AR glasses. For me, it's going to be like the smartphone, the difference between the dumb phone and the smartphone, and then we'll move into the AR. Probably not 2023, but we'll know that from digital perspective, I guess.
I'm really interested actually around AR to see augmented reality for those who aren't familiar, but I'm really interested to see how much that penetrates business and whether it remains effectively a toy or not, or somewhere in between. So I'm definitely going to be looking at AR. I think it's a bit broad, but I think there's some, AR may be included in this, but look out for technology that's improving user experience. I think that's going to be a big focus. So we've chucked a load of tools in people's hands, particularly in the business world, that are not that friendly. Their business applications.
What you're talking about?
Especially Amazon. Only joking. Business applications, and we're pivoting towards making those more usable. People have Spotify and Grab and Food Panda and all these apps on their phones that are super easy to use. Watch out for that same ease of use moving into the business world, I think.
I think that's really true. For me, I'm going to go back to actually very much a similar thing to said, what should people be using now? When we're talking about communicating with employees, I think in the next few years, and very similar to user experiences, what are we doing to communicate with our customers and how are we getting that direct customer interaction? What tools, platforms, technology, marketplaces will allow us to directly interact with our customers without having to own all the customer data? So in terms of privacy and ensuring that consumers are protected, whether your consumer is a business or an actual end human consumer, holding all of that data puts you in a lot more liability. So looking for tools that will allow you to access lots of customers and communicate to them without having to be the owner of that data is going to reduce your risk and will also be something that will give you a much better user experience and a much better voice of customer that you would have had before.
I think also, exactly. But I think we're also seeing a lot of people over the past couple of years develop solutions themselves for a lot of things, which is great, but everyone's trying to do that now, which means there's no developers available. There's software engineers are expensive.
Tell us about your problems.
Oh, I have many.
The question was what to look out for in 23, not what are Gareth's problems in 23.
No. So, but I think we'll see a lot of low-code and no-code solutions next year.
Yeah, agreed.
And so
Agreed.
I think this is where we're now starting to see commoditized products I guess products commoditize technology and apps and websites and things we need to do that you can launch in minutes. And I think that's going to be a really interesting movement next year. And I think it's not just software engineers or people like Max who are developing solutions. It's the big enterprises that are using them now.
Yeah.
It allows anyone to connect two dots. Zapier was probably one of the first examples of that, where you could connect or integrate two products overnight. Well, not even overnight, click the finger.
Siemens a couple of years ago bought a company called Mendix to do exactly that. So Mendix is a low-code tool. Siemens had loads of legacy systems that they wanted to get rid of. The investment was just too huge. So they bought a low-code tool so they could put the power in the hands of the employees to develop replacement solutions.
Oh, that's brilliant. I broke my phone using one, like one of those AI tools that you connect, and it's like no coding at all, but it allows you to set all the preferences across every single app from your phone all at once. Not this phone. This phone I've taken better care of, and I also learned how to use the tool. But I think the rise of the average person's ability to use low-code and no-code solutions is higher than mine personally. But I do think it'll be a very, very interesting trend on the consumer level as well, not just on the enterprise.
What was your master's in?
Artificial intelligence. This was before I got my master's. Thanks, Gareth.
But yeah, I agree with you, Gareth, because Jamie, you brought an interesting point that now we use so many solutions. Everybody had to use digital solution during COVID, and so we just jumped on the first thing available, and now we have all those different tools, as we mentioned, that are not really working together. And being able to connect them, maybe a Zapier plus would be very interesting. Put that in the hand put it in the hand of the user, and it's even better. You can do it themselves.
I think you made such a good point earlier about how technology has gone across demographics now. But that also, I don't know if this happened for you guys or not, but it also drastically exploded the amount of applications that I have, because my parents have a preference for one, my kid has a preference for another, my niece and nephew like split the difference and they have a totally different preference, and I still want to hang out with them. So now instead of everybody being on WhatsApp or everybody being online, it's Line, WhatsApp, as well as Facebook Instant Messenger, and then all the millions of Telegraph, and I think Clubhouse, I think I have 15 different apps just for my family now. And I look very forward to minor consolidation.
Yeah, consolidation might be a good idea. I think the other point on the demographics that you just made, Jamie, about everyone having more access to apps. I think something that business leaders should recognize is that the generation coming into the workforce now is far more tech savvy. They're effectively digital natives. So these low-code tools that you guys are talking about, they are easier for your newer workforce to start using. So don't think about the tech you want to use from your perspective. Think about it from the people in your organization, and especially the future of your organization.
And you don't need a master's in AI to use these tools, guaranteed.
I guess on that point, we should finish.
Great.
Go team.
Have some cake.
now.
Yeah, exactly. So thank you very much for your time, everybody. We look forward to seeing you at our events coming up. They'll all be posted on the British Chamber website, and I have no doubt they'll be posted all over LinkedIn and Facebook. So we'll see you then. Thank you very much.